and he will be there for tonight's game, too, as well. Todd, it's Tiki and Tierney. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Good morning, guys. Hope everything's well.
Yeah, awesome. You know, I didn't even realize we were talking about Bartman. Weren't you on the Marlins in '03?
Yes.
You were.
That's my World Series team. That's correct.
Wait, did you?
Yes, I saw things. I get to give Chicago that perspective from the other dugout. They don't appreciate that, and they've since forgiven me. But yes, I was on the other team.
Did you ever get a sense that it was that bad for him?
I did. I really did. I mean, I was there and I witnessed it. I mean, I could feel the anger in Wrigley Field after Game 6. There was a lot of anger. I mean, it wasn't just necessarily directed at Bartman. I mean, people weren't walking through the concourse, chanting Bartman. But, there's this, in Wrigley Field, in the visiting dugout, which is a bit elevated, it's actually higher. Like, you walk up some stairs anyway. It's like you get this odd, when you cross over into the clubhouse, you can look down over one of the concourses. And so as we're coming back after the game, you could look down on the people, and there you could just get this. There was this overwhelming sense of anger, very, very mumuch, very frustrated, and it just felt like there was an uprising in the Cubs faithful right there towards the man. And it wasn't everybody, but it felt a bit misplaced because we as players were like, yeah, there were other things that went on in that game that they didn't do right that helped them lose that game and helped us win it, no doubt about it. I mean,
Yep.
It came through, but the Bartman play was certainly part of it. I mean, it seemed to trigger a chain event, and I think that's what really Bartman represented, and I feel terrible for the guy because it didn't really seem fair.
No, definitely not fair, and it ruined his life, basically. It's over the
Yeah,
top,
That's what I heard. He moved away, and matter of fact, I've even heard to this day, as recently as just a few weeks ago, the organization continues to try to reach out and make that relationship better in some way. They want this to be a part of their history that they can fix somehow, and he seems to be very resistant to it. So I don't know. Nothing's really come of it. They've tried to bury it, but they just can't.
I hear you.
Making things better, and he just hasn't really kind of received the whole thing.
So I got you. I just want to get your thoughts on that. So you're in Cleveland. Obviously, the city's on fire. Right across the street, Cavaliers got their championship rings. What do you think the Cubs fan? We know that there's certain fan bases, and the Cubs are one of them, that just kind of slant negatively because of all the crushing defeats over the years. Now, a 1-0 deficit is no big deal in baseball, but given the fact that Kluber threw fewer than 90 pitches, will be ready to go in Game 4 and Game 7, Andrew Miller is just unhittable. To me, Todd, 1-0 feels bigger right now than 1-0. How do you think the fans, and really the team, obviously, viewing this down 1-0 going into tonight?
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, I'm around the fan base a lot and certainly interact with them, quite a bit here in Cleveland. I don't really get that sense yet. Maybe that's because of the NLCS and what happened there. There was a moment in the NLCS where the Cubs weren't hitting and they were being shut out and panic was starting to set in a little bit. It almost feels like lesson learned. I mean, they don't like to lose. Trust me, they don't take any loss well. You guys are in New York. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's not received well. Like the complaining and the finger pointing will start, but I don't know. I haven't really come across a overwhelming sense of doom and gloom yet. Now, if tonight happens and doesn't go their way, that will definitely be built into it because it guarantees that you're coming back to Cleveland. It guarantees that there's some despair is going on, and I'm guessing that the fan base will probably be complaining about the hitting. If in fact they do lose, obviously in Game 2 tonight, that would be the issue. So. It can happen. There's no doubt about it. But I think that most of us believe, analysts, both, people who I know here in Chicago and nationally, looked at the Indians and said, last night was a must-win for the Indians. I mean, they got Corey Kluber on the mound. And to your point, you guys talked about Games 4 and Game 7. The idea really still remains that they can't lose a Kluber start. I mean, if they lose a Kluber start, they're really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they Terry Francona tap danced around that line a little bit. I was really surprised that Kluber came out after 88 pitches last night, as dominant as he was. Because of the exposure to Andrew Miller, and I feel like that might be an advantage. That we'll see where it goes. I know he ends up pitching two shutout innings. He walks 2 guys, gives up a couple of hits, and goes 46 pitches last night. That if that doesn't help the Cubs later down the line. One thing that stands out for the Cubs, they have not all season long, and most teams really don't. When they play and go up against pitchers they haven't seen before, they don't seem to show well the first time. They show much better the second time, and I'll even use the NLCS as an example. 2-hit shutout by Clayton Kershaw in Game 2. They put a little bit of a whooping on him in Game 6. That's kind of how the Cubs operate. So it's who they are. It's their identity. I mean, I've been begging in the pregame. I do the pregame, and I'm like, okay, guys, key to the game. Let's score some early runs. They've disappointed me literally all season. It just does not seem to happen, especially against a team or guy that they have not seen before.
Yep, early runs are usually a good thing. Todd Hollandsworth with us here. Well, the Rookie of the Year back in '96, 12 years in the show. He's part of the Cubs broadcast team, pre and post. He's out in Cleveland doing his thing for CSN Chicago.
Yeah, you talk about the top of that lineup. Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo were 0 for on the day, but the guy in the five-hole, Schwarber, man, he didn't play all season long. How does he come into the World Series, and it looks like he's been doing this for months on end?
Well, without giving you, the incredibly long answer, because there's a million things I could tell you. This guy, he's an incredible young man, and he takes the weight of. He can take the weight of the world on it. He's one of those guys. I'm guessing you probably played with a guy like could put the weight of the world on his shoulder and carry a team. That's Kyle Schwarber. He doesn't not even fazed by this stuff. I mean, pregame interviews, he's not even sweating. He's not like, how did I end up here? Like me, I'd be up there. I'd be like sweating bullets. My hair would be out there. I'd be a mess.
Yeah, he's got ice.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
It's like he's got ice in his veins, right? Steady
Right.
heartbeat. Nothing moves.
He doesn't sweat these moments. He knows what he was put on God's green earth to do, and he just goes out and does it. To be honest, I said it this way yesterday. And sometimes you get to spring training when we go to camp, in February and March. Every now and again, and I was talking to Ryan Sandberg about this, every now and again you go to spring training and you're like, all right, the first game, everybody thinks it's this idea that we have to warm up to, the game of baseball, and we all go 0 for 10 first, and then we start to hit. It's like what we do in spring training. And, we were kind of comparing it yesterday, saying, well, sometimes you get to spring training and you go 2 for 4 with a homer in the first game, and you're like, wow, my swing is there. I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. And it can happen that way. So, I kind of played it up that way going into last night's ball game. Schwarber very possibly could have that first game of spring training impact, and he kind of did. He has the double. He looks comfortable. Even his strikeouts didn't look bad. He didn't look overmatched.
Todd, I wanted to ask you this in terms of approach. I'm going to point out 2 examples. I just don't know why teams do this or don't do it more specifically. Mm-hmm. Back in '04, Kurt Schilling, the bloody sock. I don't know why the Yankees didn't drop the hands and make them bounce off the mound and drop out a few bunts. I know that they were a bunch of mashers, so they would be deviating from who they are, I guess. But if a guy can't move, make him move. That's number one. John Lester's aversion to throwing over to first base. I don't think the Dodgers really exploited that enough. That leads me to Trevor Bauer, whose finger is still kind of threaded together here. So if I'm the Cubs, do I have a radically different approach in the batter's box? Maybe let a couple of good pitches go by and really try to get his pitch count up high?
Yes.
You do?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead. Expound on that if you can.
Game planning. It's a fantastic point that you've made. It's actually, I've already, before I was talking to you guys, I was doing a couple of shows, but I was putting together the pregame and looking at some notes and going over my notes from the other day, and that's really the approach against Bauer. That's exactly what it would be even with a healthy pinky. This is a guy who has been plagued by inconsistency throughout his career. He walked 70 guys. I think it was 170 innings this year. Actually, 190 innings. Yeah, he walked 70 guys. So what does that tell you? You're going to try and drive his pitch count up. That's what the Cubs are really, really good at. That's actually their thing. They go up against a guy like Kluber, who throws strike one as well as anybody, and it's very hard for them to say, okay, I'm going to be ultra aggressive, say, on the first or second pitch of an at-bat, because it's really not in their DNA as a unit. What their DNA is to go up there, work pitch counts, get pitchers, drive up that, get them to 100 pitches in like 5 innings, and then get into the weak part of the bullpen. That has been their game plan all season long, and in a 103-win season, it works pretty well. That's what they've done. But a guy like Kluber, an ace, he came out and he threw strikes, and it worked against those Cubs. But I think Bauer, it's so amazing. He is kind of like, he could show up and be great. He could show up and be that guy that walks 5 in a game. He's already done it this year. So that will absolutely be their approach tonight. It's very easy for them to default to that because it's who they are. So, with the finger, to your point, I think you're hoping for a 40-pitch first inning for Bauer, and you're hoping for a bloody finger.
No doubt about it. That's what you got. You got to try to exploit that. I hear you.
Absolutely, totally agree. That's easy for them to do. That's that's who they are. That's their DNA.
Okay, makes sense. Todd Hollandsworth. Todd, final thing, of course. Todd, Rookie of the Year back in '96, and a nice 12-year career. So obviously, he knows the game, and he's part of CSN Chicago's coverage. He's out there in Cleveland. I cannot believe that John Lester cannot throw to first base. What are the Cubs doing to try to erase this mental block? Behind the scenes, what happens?
Well, it's been again, great question. If you really want, there's a long version of the answer, the short version. I'm going to do my best to give you the short version. It's in his mind. It's in his head. It's just what it comes down to. it's not as easy to exploit this as people think it is. And I thought it was very interesting that it was being played up this way before yesterday's ball game. It was like, oh, the Indians are the best base running team in baseball. They stole 134 bases. I said, do you think John Lester doesn't know that he's got this problem? He's had it for years, and this isn't anything new. Everybody keeps saying the same thing. Who's going to be the first team to exploit him on the bases? I said, it's been a couple of years since anybody really has done that to him. I think you have to go back to when he was in Oakland A, and part of that was that the Oakland A's players, his teammates, didn't really back him nearly the same way. This team has been versed in how to help defend John Lester.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Rizzo crashes. Chris Bryant crashes on bunts. Both guys defend both sides. Both middle infielders rotate around. I mean, it's almost like a football defense. It's what these guys do. David Ross has got a great arm. He bounces out behind the plate. He anticipates well. John Lester's got one of the best slide steps in the game. 44 stolen bases 2 years ago against him. Last year, this year, 2016, 28. I mean, you tell me if they're not dealing with it, they're trying to deal with it. It's just collective. And that's how it ends up going. When it comes to defending John Lester, he has issues throwing the ball to bases. I know for a fact firsthand that tons of hours and tons of time and tons of dedication was applied in spring training to get John Lester through this. And the first thing he did was the first ball that went back to the mound in, I think it was like game one that he threw this year, he ran the ball over to first base.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, here we are. We're back at it. He just is uncomfortable doing it. The Dodgers, if you remember, Jack Peterson bunted back to the mound. John's big hang-up is throwing the ball over Anthony Rizzo's head or throwing the ball down the line or over somebody's head. He just does not feel comfortable doing it, so he tries to keep the throws low. He one-hopped it, a long hop to Anthony Rizzo on a bunt, so at least he's got something going there, but you're right. I mean, it is a bit of a mental block. It's as simple as that.
I mean, I know we got to go. I'd go Little League every time. I got a guy on first and third.
But see, everybody keeps saying that.
Well, then try it.
Doing it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
It's not one bunt. It's like, okay, I'm going to bunt with four guys in a row, right? But
No, Todd. I don't mean bunt. If I got first and third, right? As soon as Lester comes to a stop at his belt, the guy on first base, I'm not even waiting for first move. I'm going, and he's going to probably.
I hear you. You're right. It makes sense. It makes sense in theory. But what ends up happening is major leaguers are so used to their routine, they're so used to their lead that when they step outside, I mean, think about this. I mean, everybody's paying attention to you. It's almost like being center stage at a rock concert when you get your lead at first base and everybody knows about John Lester. It puts so much pressure on the base runner to actually get out there and do it. Look at the Dodgers. I mean, they went out there and played Manny Boo-Boo with him, from 15 feet.
They never went.
Nobody ran. Everybody just kept going back to first base. I mean, there's got to be something to it. I agree. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, and I got you.
But I'm still waiting for the first team to get the guy on and just start running like crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's easy. Todd,
did it last night, and he almost got thrown out, and he should have been, and he did get thrown out.
Well, he did, exactly. Todd,
Second
exactly.
time.
Lindor did.
Yeah, second time.
He got caught. He didn't throw it over. Then he goes, and he gets thrown out by Cody Ross. So it doesn't always work as planned. At least in your mind. It's not as, David Ross, it's not as easy as it seems to in your mind.
Well, tonight should be fun, man. We're a little late. Great chat. Keep up the good coverage. CSN Chicago out there in Cleveland. Game 2 an hour earlier. Jake Arrieta, Trevor Bauer. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it, buddy.